pretty addicted to that for a long time in my early years. Like it was just a game more than anything. Like I was like, I can get any person I want in this bar.
Yeah.
And I always did.
And I mean,
it was like fun.
I had a talk with a friend of mine recently too. And I said, and this is the kind of pathetic thing you do when you get to my age is you look back and I go, like I was with women that were unbelievable, like just like inside, outside, like the most beautiful women.
Welcome to Sweet Release Podcast with me, Barbie Jean. Hi, sweets. Welcome back. Thanks for coming back week after week. I love you guys so much for your support. Today, sitting next to me, I have Dan Dunn. And thank you for being here, first of all.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to talk to you. You are, we've known each other for years. But you're big in you host your own podcast. You've also been a radio host. You're a screenwriter. You're an author of several books. You are a comedy TV writer. So many things.
And keep going. Yeah. I'm loving this. This is beautiful. What else?
You also have a new an adaptation to be a feature film, which is dope. So congrats on all of that. You do a lot of cool stuff. But I'm excited for you because you're very authentic with your podcast and you love to schmooze and booze and talk all the things, but we're going to kind of get vulnerable today. So I'm excited for you to open up.
Okay. Me too.
Did I miss anything?
See, on my show, what we're drinking, we drink. So then you can mask. If you don't want to be vulnerable, you just have more to drink. And then it goes away. Yeah.
Right. So maybe that helps.
Cheating. No.
Are you sober today?
I'm stone sober.
Okay. Yeah, me too. Well, let's get into it. So, I'm curious, on your podcast bio, it says that you're kind of this polymath of many things, meaning, you have learned a lot and you feel like you know a lot of different areas of subjects and concepts. So do you feel like you've learned a lot about like pleasure in your lifetime? Do you feel like you've learned how to please a woman? Is that something that you feel? Or please
What's the answer to that question? No, I suck. The male ego would dictate that I have to say yes to that question. But do I feel like I have? Yeah. Okay. I have been mostly single for a lot of my life and have taken full advantage of that, I guess. I've had relationships over the years. Getting to your question about if I've learned, I've practiced a tremendous amount. I will say that. Like I lived after I left, I'm from Philadelphia. And then after I left Philly, I went to Aspen, Colorado for about 5 years. And there was a lot of
exploration
encounters for sure. All kinds of crazy stuff in Aspen. I can say shit, right?
Okay. You can say whatever you want.
All kinds of crazy shit in Aspen. And then from there, I went to Arizona and that was everywhere, really. I've practiced a lot. Whether I'm good at it, pleasing a woman, I think. Either that or they're really good at making me think that I'm good at it, so that could be it.
Yeah, I feel like, though, that's what I talk about a lot in these episodes is how exploration is so important and learning to love yourself and please yourself can help in those partnered sessions. So I was just curious if you do feel like, so it sounds like experience.
Well, certainly when I was younger, as we grow, as we get older and going to continue to grow and continue, but like sex when I was in my 20s was different than in my 30s, was different than in my 40s, and now I'm in my 50s. And it's like, I've gotten gradually more comfortable as I've gotten older, but mores have changed. What's acceptable has changed. How things go have changed a lot. So I can look back into my 20s when it seemed like anything went, even in my, you could do anything. And I was probably more adventurous then than I would be now. I think like now I find that, not having a partner, not having a steady partner, it's different because you have to approach things differently. Everything has to be, I'm trying to think of a way to say this where I don't sound creepy, but it's like, it seems like nowadays, like at least maybe this is just me, is like I almost don't want to do anything too adventurous because I don't know. I don't want to freak anybody out. So it's like, all right, we'll just do missionary.
Baby steps.
Yeah. And a lot of that just has to do, and part of that too might just be, again, I mentioned like when I was living in Aspen, it was, I was in my 20s and everybody was fucking like, it was crazy then, like it was just, everybody came and it was vacation and there'd, just like sex parties and stuff. And it'd just be, everything went. And that hasn't happened in a long time. But maybe I'm not hanging out with the right. Maybe I need to move back to Aspen. But yeah, so things felt a lot more adventurous back then. But I don't know. I probably wasn't as in touch with not only what my own needs, but probably the other people as much as I'm definitely not as I am now.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Do you feel like your body has changed?
Yeah, I've gotten fatter and yeah, that's
like, does your dick work the same?
Did I mention I was in my 50s? Yeah.
Like, how has that evolved over your life?
Your balls hang lower. You just kind of go, what's going on here? It sucks. Yeah, for sure. And that's part of it, is like, as you get older, your body starts to change, maintaining the confidence levels. It's different then. Now, the things that I'm confident about now are different than when I was in my 20s. I was just a good looking dude. So like I could talk too. So, as opposed to right now when you wouldn't be able to glean that from this interview so far, but, I had a little bit of game. I could talk. I was a good looking guy. Things felt easier then, but so part of that is maybe I didn't have to be as generous as I could have been. I didn't, I guess it's hard to remember back now. I got laid a lot when I was young. And I think I've always tried to be giving and considerate and in tune with the women that I'm with. But I don't know if I always was.
Yeah. You never really know, I guess.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Now I really have to. Now I do, because now I feel really grateful. I mean, I'm being honest. Like I didn't when I was young. It never crossed my mind that I wasn't going to get laid all the time by whoever I wanted. I know I sound like a dick, but that's what I thought. And so that impacts how you behave sexually as well, or how you appreciate it. Like now I'm like, yeah, if I'm getting laid now, I'm like, fuck, this is awesome. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Really taking a chance on me. So yeah, it's different in that way.
Yeah. How have you mentioned, like kind of body confidence. So do you feel like as you've aged, you get kind of more insecure about your body and more insecure about, sexual connections?
Yeah. I mean, funny, I just had this conversation with a friend recently. There's a weird dividing line. Up until a few years ago, it never dawned on me. And I mean, you've known me over the years. You've seen me out with people and stuff. Like I would never walk in and think, oh man, I'm 50 and I can't talk to you. It just didn't matter. I just went in, I had all the confidence in the world and I went in. And then probably like 2 or 3 years ago, I just started noticing that that wasn't happening anymore. And I'm like, oh, and then I took a real good look in the mirror and I went, yeah, I'm older, And so it was a real adjustment to go, okay, this thing that's been a certain way for a couple of decades is no longer that way. So now not only for my own self-confidence, which was probably flimsy. I was relying on something that was just surface level. So now I have to derive my confidence from deeper things. Like, hey, did I mention I write books? And all these other things that I do. And so that I guess is where my confidence comes from now in terms of my body. Yeah, I'm fine. It's fine. I'm not embarrassed of my body or anything like that. I mean, what are you trying to say?
Nothing.
What are you trying to say here, yeah.
I'm just curious. Obviously you're older than me, so it's just interesting. I haven't had.
Obviously, I'm older than you.
I don't mean it like that.
What the hell is going on here?
Have you ever been in love?
Yeah, all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, not all the time, but several times, and most of my relationships that have ended in the last 10 years, like there's been a couple that I've been serious relationships have been because I don't want kids. And that seems to be the deal breaker a lot of times now. It has been with my last 3 relationships has been, we do it anyway. And we're like, okay, somebody's going to change their mind. You know, I think you've probably met her before, but I had a serious girlfriend and we broke up right before COVID. I mean, literally right before COVID. I broke up with her. I was like, you know what? Let's never get laid again. I mean, we broke up and then COVID hit and I was like, wait, can we run that back?
Yeah, wait a second.
Do over. Because I didn't leave the house for 3 months. Yeah. But, and, we dated for about 4.5 years and she's a lot younger than me. And we knew at one point, about 2 years in, she decided she did want kids. And I said I didn't. And then we held on for 2.5 more years, like just ignored it.
It's interesting.
Maybe it'll go away.
There's a lot of people in LA that don't want kids. So I'm surprised that you've had a rough go at that.
Yeah. I mean, just with those those particular, maybe I'm attracted to people that are family oriented. I don't know. Like the last few women that I've been with have wanted kids and I don't know why we do it.
Has that been something that you've always known from a younger age that you didn't want kids?
Yeah. I didn't have a great childhood. I didn't have a lot of good, as I've written about in several of my books. In fact, when American Wino gets made, you'll watch that movie and go, oh, I get it now. Why? Yeah, I didn't have any role models, certainly for, I did like extended family, but my own personal family, I'm like, why would anybody put anybody through this? So that was that. But, so yeah, I've known for a long time that I don't want kids. Not my whole life, but at least the last 20 years.
You do have a dog.
I have a dog. I've always had dogs. They're my surrogate children. They're great.
I love it. Well, let's talk about, what about kinks? Do you find yourself to be a kinky person?
Yeah. Am I? I mean, kinks, let's see. What was the most recent kink? I like during COVID, I was reading a lot about the stimulating the prostate. So I did try that and it didn't work for me though. Like I did this whole thing where I got the tools. My ex had left this vibrator that she had. It was like a little thing. It was like this big, a couple inches. So I got that and I get in, I'm in my room. I do this whole setup. I got like pillow under my ass.
Love
thing out, lube, the thing. I get the computer here for porn. And I'm like, I'm just going to stick this thing in my ass and then we'll try to jerk off with it. And I did. And it was uncomfortable. And no matter how much I wanted it to be comfortable. And I mean, I've had over the years, like women have stuck their finger out. That's like, that kink is one that I wish worked because I'm like, I bet it feels good. And I don't know if I'm not relaxing, but I couldn't. And then when I took it out, the next day my ass was killing me. And then I regretted every woman that I had anal sex. I felt bad for every woman that I ever had anal sex.
I'm glad you said that because that's how we feel.
Okay. Now I see. And this was a little thing too, and I'm like, ow, it really hurts.
Yeah, it's sore.
Yeah. So, and then in terms of other, I mean, I've had, I don't know if they're these kinks, but I've been involved. I've had a lot of like multiple partners, especially in Aspen.
So are you talking, you mentioned play parties, but do you mean like polyamorous?
It was almost, no, it was usually me and other women.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Threesomes.
There were a couple or more.
Moresomes. Yeah. I like to call them moresomes.
Yeah. I hang out with some of the people. I mean, I used to work for Hunter S. Thompson, the writer, and there was crazy shit would happen at his place and things like that. And then the people that he knew would come to town and, I don't want to say any of the names on here, but they were famous people. And you'll be shocked to learn that when you've got famous people and a bunch of crazy people in Aspen that are fucked up on drugs and tripping balls, everything goes.
Yeah, everyone gets naked.
And so, I've seen things and been involved in things. But so I've done a lot of that back in the day, that, again, particularly there in Aspen. And I was dating someone recently who's she has a boyfriend, but they
They're open.
Yeah. So I read this book called Attached. Do you know this book?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I was reading that to try to get used to it. I don't know. Yeah. And then what else would I say are kinks? I mean, I like.
Was that interesting for you? Like dating someone who had a primary partner kind of?
It was initially, but then I had the feels for her and my ego got in the way, I guess. It was like, well, why can't we be together? And we're still friends, but it didn't work out in terms of I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I don't know that I could. I don't know that I could.
Yeah, I don't know if I could do polyamory. My partner and I definitely, we invite people into our relationship. We like explore together. We go to parties. We have a lot of threesomes and more sums. But actually like dating people separately is not something that I've ever felt comfortable doing. In previous open relationships, I've tried it and it's just been like, I don't know. It just never felt right. And I feel like I've made some boundaries where I just feel like it's nice to have that one person that's kind of like your soulmate, your partner in life, but being able to like explore and have the novelty of new things sometimes is really lovely. But to actually have like multiple relationships, I just don't know if I'm cut out for that.
Yeah, I'm not either.
Yeah.
And by the way, thoughts will come to me from 10 minutes ago, and now one just did.
Okay, tell us.
Back when I was saying to you, the point I made so poorly earlier about how I'm cautious. I did meet somebody about a year ago, and she came back to my house, and she was into biting.
Ooh.
Biting. But she wanted me to bite her, and she wanted me to bite her hard. And I was like, no fucking way, right?
You didn't want to do it?
No, because this is what I'm saying, how things are different now. Because then I'm like, okay, if I bite her, this is what's going through my brain. And this shit never went through my brain when I was in my 20s, but maybe nobody thinks when they're 20s. It's like, what if I bite her? And then next thing you know, she turns around and says, oh, he bit me. And not like I'm not famous, but I mean, I've written books, I've been on TV, I've done, and I'm like, no. And that was why I wanted to fucking do it. I wanted to be like, yeah, let's fucking do this. And I doubted, she didn't strike me as the kind of person that would do that, but I wasn't going to do it because I'm like, no, I can't.
In those situations, you should just have some like written consent or something. Just because
I thought about, what about like an app? Yeah. What if we came up with an app where you can film it and say, all right, here we are. She wants me to bite her. I'm going to bite her.
Yeah.
Here we go. But we're agreeing to this.
Yeah.
And then virtually sign. And then that goes to some database where no one can ever see it. You don't know about it unless it becomes an issue later. This could be a thing.
It could be a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of dominatrixes and doms kind of have some sort of written consent document ahead of time. So it's not completely out of the...
But doesn't that feel so clinical? Yes, hold on. Let me draw up some paper. Let me call my lawyer, have him draw up some papers. Yeah, right. And then I'm going to fuck the shit out of you. I mean, here's what it comes down to. And I say this, and I know at this point in my life, having had all of the fun that I've had, and I want to have a lot more fun. But when it gets complicated these days, I just go, fuck, I'd rather just jerk off. Mm-hmm. Just go. Like, I don't want to. And so that sucks in a way but I prefer that over situations that get complicated when it's, involving anything other than just normal sex. Mm. Yeah.
So you didn't bite her. Bummer.
I didn't. We still ended up hooking up, but I just was, I didn't say, fuck no, I'm not doing it. I just said, hey, I'm not real comfortable with that. And then she was like, can you rip the shit out of my hair? And I was like, yeah, I'll fucking do that. No, I'm kidding. Pulled her hair out. No, I'm kidding. Joking.
Or you should be like, oh, but you can bite me.
She could bite me all she wants. Yeah. But I don't. Okay. Other thing. I'm not into like painful shit.
Rough play. Yeah.
No, I don't even like my balls touched. This is a weird thing. And maybe let me know if you've heard this from anybody. It's strange. I have this weird feeling. I know it's not going to happen, but like if someone starts sucking on my balls, it's like, what if they bit them? And I know they're not going to bite them, but it's like a weird thing. It's like the same thing like when I go in the ocean, I'm like, I'm going to get bitten by a shark. I know I am. I just know I am. Even though I know the odds of that shark biting me the odds of her biting my balls are more than the shark biting me. But I'm like, I don't like when my balls are in somebody's mouth because I feel like something could go wrong. They cough. they have a seizure. Like, I'm not joking. This goes through my brain. I'm like, let's just leave those alone.
Dan.
So it's created over the years. That's built up to the point where I'm just like, dude, you don't have to bother with them.
Don't
just
even touch
leave those alone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, you're missing out on some
I should
erogenous zones.
go to therapy about that.
Maybe.
Yeah, isn't that? It is a strange thing. It's like that probably started from the beginning of my sexual experience when I was 15, first time I had sex. So it's been a long, long time, and it's probably gotten worse. Where I'm just like, don't touch my balls. Just leave those.
What was your first? I was 15 too when I lost my virginity.
Oh my God.
What was your first experience like?
I don't know if this counts. So the first time I had sex, I was at a party. I grew up in a tough neighborhood in Philly, right? So we all like hung on the corner, and it was like everybody knew each other and everybody made out with everybody. And I'd never had sex before. And there was I got to think this through just to make sure that I don't identify anybody. There was someone in our group that liked me, and we used to make out and kiss and everything, but I didn't like her and I liked somebody else. And we were at this party, and she said to me, it was like this weird drunken teenage thing fight. Why do you like me? And I said, person's name, who shall be named nameless. The only reason I would be with you is to have sex, because I was such a sensitive 15-year-old boy. And she said, I want to do that. That's what I want to do. And I was like, oh, hold on. No joke. And I went to my cousin who was a year older than me. And I'm like, and I tell him, and he's to do it. Go into, I don't want to say any names, the girls whose party it was, his parents' bedroom. And I'm like, okay. So then I'm thinking to myself, I'm really going to
happening now.
I'm going to have sex. And I was a little nervous, but so we get into the person whose party it was, parents' bedroom, and we start having, I'm sure, very, very awkward fumbling sex because we were drinking too, and which is probably why I didn't come within 20 seconds because I had like a buzz going. So it's actually taking a little bit of time. And the bathroom, these are row homes in Philadelphia. Like there's one bathroom in the house, and the bathroom was outside of the bedroom that we were in. So people were lining up in the hallway to go to the bathroom. So while we're having sex, I hear like commotion outside, loud voices. And then there's like banging on the door. What was happening was two of my friends who were drunk were fighting each other. Like stupid. I grew up in a neighborhood where like that was fun. It was like Fight Club, like you just beat each other up. Mm-hmm. But they're in the hallway and this is happening. And it's like bam, bam, like the door. And
yeah, it's loud.
We're still loud and like bang, and all of a sudden the door burst open. Mm-hmm. No joke. And the door is locked, but they threw it and they broke the door and they come tumbling into the room, hitting each other. And they stop. This, no joke, this is actually, and they stop. And they're on the floor and I stop and I'm on top of her and I look at them and they look at me and we started laughing. And I didn't know how else to react, right? I was like, I was so, and we just started laughing and then she screamed, get off of me. Oh God, it's so fucking horrible. It's so horrible. And that was the end of that. And didn't finish.
I was going to say, you probably didn't even
No. And it was so, looking back on it now, I'm like, oh, it's just terrible, like for all of us, but her especially. And so then a couple of months later, I started dating somebody who was like cheerlead, like the head cheerlead, like she was just the ideal, And I was like, oh, and I was so into her. And we went to my house after school. And we had to go, it was like out of a movie. We stopped at a pharmacy to get birth control. And so I bought all this stuff, like got to buy a bunch of shit and then try to sneak. Now it's like kids don't give a shit. But back then you'd be like, I'm going to buy gum and soda and potato chips and all this. And maybe I can sneak these condoms in here.
No one will notice.
Won't notice. So although it wasn't condoms, this is how long ago this was. It was a thing called the sponge.
I don't even know what that is.
You're like, the woman sticks it up there and
really?
It's like, she wanted it. I don't know. I would have got condoms. So we went to my parents' house, completely different situation, stone sober, afternoon. Oh, I almost said her name. Her there, gorgeous, beautiful. I'm so in love. And I think I think it was about 20 seconds. I think I got we got a good 20 seconds out of me.
Nice.
I was going and it really is. And I know people have made jokes about this, but I was really doing that. I remember putting it in and being like, holy shit. Right. And immediately going, I got to think of anything other than what's happening right now because I'm going to explode. Right. So I was like, oh, my grandma, I'm taking a shit, whatever. And then she said something. I think she went, oh,
and then that's
or like a slight moan escaped. And I was like, oh, wow. Damn. But the beauty back then was like, you could go like 4 times. It was like, all right, let's do it again. How's that sponge still in there? Yeah. So my very first time having sex, I didn't finish. It was awful, traumatic. I'm sure that she's scarred for life. I'm scarred from life because of it. The second time I learned that I had no control whatsoever. I was so kind of like I am now. Like now I've evolved. It's come full circle. Now I'm once again like, God damn, I'm so lucky I'm having sex. And that was how that was back then.
Oh my God, amazing.
And then the funniest thing is I was so in love with her and we just had sex all the time, like every day, like multiple times. And then she cheated on me.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, wait, I'm leaving out something.
Okay.
This could explain a lot about me. I'm leaving out. I don't know how I left this out. Probably one of the seminal moments of my sexual life. The first time not sex, but the first sexual experience I had involving another person, in this case, 2 other people. When I was a kid, my mom's friends had kids, girls that were a year and a half older than me. And when we were little kids, they would kiss me and like practice kissing me and stuff, like you do.
Yeah.
Play out like I'm more like 8, and they're like, so when I was 13, so I guess they would have been 14. We were downstairs at one of their parents' house and we're messing around. And then they asked me to take my dick out. And then they got down and they were going to like practice a blowjob. Okay. And I'm like, I'm so nervous and so they were like giggling. It wasn't like sexy at all. Like they're laughing and like, and they're touching it and then put your mouth on it. You do it. And then like she put her, and then I almost keep saying the names. And one of them who I was particularly fond of, like put it in her mouth and that was it. And I started to shake and she pulled out, she stopped and then it went all over and they started laughing, like uncontrollably laughing.
Oh,
and so I realized that has to be part of it because I'm like, okay, this incredible moment also immediately followed by incredible shame because I was like, they're just laughing. And I'm like, what is like, my parents didn't tell me shit about sex. They didn't tell me anything. Like I knew what it was, but I never, I'm like, oh, and it just was, and they're just laughing. And then they got up and that was my first sexual appearance. So on one hand, first time I got it, threesome with 2 hotties. On the other hand, completely humiliated.
Yeah, humiliation.
So maybe we need to dive into that.
You might want to dive into some degradation, humiliation kink. Who knows? I don't know.
Just fucking laugh at me, will you? You'd be shocked. No, there's been a lot of people laughed at me over the years. Well,
you're also a funny guy. You do a lot of comedy.
No, I meant in bed. Like now, like if I take my clothes off now, they'd go, oh, your balls are hanging so low. I'm joking. Ish. They do get low. You know this, right?
I do know
They keep getting
lower and lower.
Yeah, eventually I'm going to need a fucking
a tuck? What is it?
I'll just come in. I'll have like a little caddy with me.
Oh my God.
Between my legs. Like, what's that for? That's holding my balls up. Ball pouch. Do they do a tuck? Do people do that?
I don't know.
I'm sure they could, right?
I'm sure they would.
Stitch it up.
Oh my God.
It's not that. It's not like that.
That's
like, I can't cover. I couldn't like cover my head with it or anything like that, but it's,
I hope not.
There's more sack than there used to be. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I've been with a lot of older men in their 50s. And yeah, I've never been one to like look and see, oh, their balls seem lower to me. Like, it's not something that I ever pay attention to.
Yeah.
But now maybe I will.
Yeah. And look, is it a source of maybe, again, I'm going to bring up something and try to think how to say this. I was recently on a trip to somewhere can't say what city. And I did meet somebody who's considerably younger than me. And we had sex. And she was like super, like compliment. Oh my God, I love your body. And it was great. Like it felt good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, all right, I still got it.
I still got it.
And she, I was just whatever, fuck cares. I'm not identifying her. She was a massive squirter.
Oh, nice.
Like crazy. And I've encountered that a few times in my life, but like, not like, well, no, she was the second most prolific squirter that I've ever encountered in my life. But to the point where like, we were in my hotel room and I'm like, where am I going to sleep?
Yeah,
I'm not joking.
Wet.
The entire bed was soaking wet. So what's going on with that?
You got to get blankets.
No, I mean, what's going on with the squirting? Because then you hear, oh, it's pee. And I don't care if it is, but I mean, what is it?
It's coming from, I guess, the urethra sponge. So there is sometimes traces of like urine in there, but it's not actual urine. But it is just kind of this thin, wet liquid that produces
but why is it happening?
a lot of pleasure. Well, it's when you're hitting that G-spot region, typically. But for everyone, I guess everyone's different. But typically it's when you're penetrating or pushing against the G-spot where it creates this like release. And it can be very orgasmic and feel super good. And a lot of women just haven't unlocked that door. I remember the first time it happened for me, I was like, holy shit. I remember having the guy in my phone's name as his first name and then Squirt because he made me squirt for the first time. And I was just like, this is crazy. But then after that, it kind of like unlocks a door and then you're like, oh, okay, this is something that can happen. Yeah.
I mean, I've had it over the years. I said she was the second. There was one maybe 15 years ago where it was... I thought it was like a joke. I was like, what is happening?
Are you peeing on me?
it was like a fire hydrant. I'm not kidding. Like what how is there this much fluid in the human body? And, that feels good when that happens. You're like, yeah, all right, I got this.
No, it is. I remember when a woman was sitting on my face once and she squirted and I thought she was peeing on me. I literally did. But then I was like, oh, wait a minute. No, this isn't pee. But it was a shock. I was just like, oh my God, what is happening? But then I'm like, oh, I'm doing something right. It's like when fluid gets involved, you're like, okay, keep doing what you're doing.
And that's the thing. I love fluid. Like I'm none of that free. I don't care if there's pee. That doesn't bother me. Nothing that those things. I'm oddly sort of OCD about certain things and germophobic about certain things, but then other things, like I'm like, if I can't eat leftover, I can't eat, like if you ate food and you're like, do you want to try something?
Oh, really?
Can't do it. Right. I could completely make out with you and do it. Like, it's not about your germs. I don't understand I don't like to eat food that was on somebody else's plate. Right. And I'm very like, there's certain things like they just had, like, I don't like when counters, like if I eat somewhere and there's like there's the water from the previous I'm like, can you get a towel? Can you wipe this? But that said, when I was younger, partying days, I would do coke off the fucking bathroom from Train Spotting. That wouldn't bother me at all. I'd be like, yo, is that a piece of shit next to it? Here, just move it over here. I'll do, and I would do that. But if there's a water there, that would bother me. And I'd be like, wipe that off. So sexually, it doesn't affect me. Like nothing, it doesn't. I'm not.
Yeah. What if a girl goes down on you and then comes up and wants to make out with you? You're like, yeah.
Love that. Yeah. Yeah. Like everything, like sex. I mean, like, yeah.
You were telling me actually.
She like eat my ass and I'd make out with her. Yeah. I'd be like, all right, let's go. Yeah. I don't care. That's great.
Yeah. You were telling me your favorite thing about a woman, or it was, what was it? It was like the way that you know that you're like in love with a girl.
No, I was joking with you. Well, I was joking. I said, true love is, you fuck them in the ass and then they let you come in their mouth. Yeah. It's like, that's love. She's committed to you. Yes. And, hey, I'd do the same thing if I could.
Has that happened to you? Have you done that before?
Have I fucked someone in the ass and then they gave me a blowjob? Yeah.
Right. After?
All the time.
Okay. See, I've always been like, oh, go wash that.
My one ex used to, certainly she liked that, but she would make me go wash it. But I've had women that don't care.
Really?
They just go, yeah. And I'm like, hey.
What about, ass to vagina? Because that's another way that I've always been like, go wash that.
most women want you to because you can get an infection. You can get an infection.
I think something would happen with the mouth too, but maybe not.
But I have done it. I've certainly done it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where like if you're in the heat of the moment. And
I think I've certainly done it too.
Yeah. But it's you don't want anybody getting sick
or anything
because of it. But there was another thing I was thinking about when you're. I don't know why. But I'm like, why do I have to explain why I think of these things? They just pop into my head. I also had someone. One of the craziest things was this is maybe 20 years ago. I met this woman and she was the most orgasmic woman ever. And you would think that would be a good thing, but it was not. I remember like I put it in and it started to go and it was like 15 seconds and she started like shaking violently. Right. And was like, and like pushed me off. Right. And I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm the fucking man. Right. So then we start again and it's like 20 seconds later, it happens again. Right. And I'm like, all right, I am really the man, right? I'm fucking digging tunnels here. And then it just wouldn't, it was all the time. Like, and I couldn't get moving, you know what I mean? And then
it would push you away after.
So we ended up having a discussion about it and she I forget the name of it. It's like there's a medical term for it.
Interesting.
Like she orgasms. So she can't go for like longer than she can't have vaginal sex. Like that's the weird part. But if I went down on her, it wasn't the clit. It was being inside of her.
Interesting.
But it was terrible because I could never. And then I would go, well, am I going to be able to get some rhythm here? Because this is going to take longer than 30 seconds, And so then she's like, I'm just going to give you a blowjob. And I'm like, okay. So I always felt bad for her because I'm like, how do you have a sex life if you can't?
Yeah. How would you sustain that?
Yeah.
That would suck.
You've never heard this before.
No, I've never heard that
before. There's another syndrome where I remember seeing it on like 60 Minutes or something where people that have orgasms when they're not even having sex. There's a woman that she would have,
like energy orgasms?
But she would just have them all day. It was like
oh, really?
a bad thing. Like she just kept having orgasms all day.
Wow.
Couldn't stop.
Huh. No, I have not heard of that either.
All right.
Wild.
Well, if she's out there and you're listening, call me. Now I could use the ego boost. Yeah.
Well, you got to work with what you got. So obviously I want you to love yourself even if you have to orgasm every 15 seconds, but that would be interesting dynamic to deal with.
Yeah,
for sure. Well, what else could we talk about? I do want to know that last time you had that sweet release, but yeah, we can go there.
With somebody else?
No, it can be solo.
Oh.
Just like the last time.
Last night?
Yesterday, last night? Yeah.
No, not last night. So I take edibles to sleep.
Nice.
So
weed edibles.
Usually it would take weed edibles to sleep. Yeah. And so usually one of two things will happen when I go to bed. I'll either do a crossword, the New York Times crossword on my computer, or I'll watch porn and jerk off.
It's only
kind of alternates. Yeah.
Okay.
One or the other.
That's amazing.
Do I want to crossword this tonight? And then sometimes I'll be in the middle of the crossword and the crossword will be a particularly difficult crossword. And I go, fuck this. And then I'll switch over to the porn.
We're switching.
Do that. Okay. But sometimes I get too tired to jerk off. Sometimes I think I'm going to jerk off when I get to bed tonight. And then I'm too tired, even to pleasure myself.
Mm-hmm. I've been there.
When I was saying to you earlier about like how I'm just like, don't want to bother. Sometimes I don't even want to bother with myself. Yeah. But the last time I had sex was that one I just told you about in the hotel room when I got soaked.
When you got soaked. Yeah. Where did you end up sleeping? Did you have to like put a blanket on the bed?
No, we stayed at my hotel room.
Oh, you just slept in the wetness.
I moved over, I think, but it was not quite the one. The one that I mentioned was like the fire. Like that was incredible. Like there were puddles on my floor. Mm-hmm. Puddles on my bedroom floor. That was at my house years ago. But this hotel was pretty. I'm sure the housekeepers thought I peed the bed.
For sure.
Yeah, the bed was soaked.
Yeah, that would be funny conversation the next day.
Could I leave a note? Hey, by the way, like you're so insecure, you leave a note for a housekeeper. By the way, this is cum. Just so you know. I didn't pee.
Yeah, for sure.
Just so you know. Flag her down in the hall. Hey, just so you know, I didn't pee the bed.
It wasn't me.
You saw that lady coming out? Yeah. There you go.
I made that happen.
That was, yeah. So I probably, that's sweet release, we call it. Yeah, that's good. I probably at least 5 times a week.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you always watch porn?
Yeah. Or I watch videos that I've made with people.
Oh, fun.
I have a lot of
Yeah,
those.
I love doing that too.
Yeah. Although those are bittersweet too, because then some of them I can't watch anymore.
Oh.
Because now I go, not like I missed them or anything. I don't know.
Does it not get you off, or do you get sensitive?
I think so. When my relationships end, a pattern that I've had has been like, I'll end the relationship and then, or it'll end, but then I really pine for that person. Right. Which I guess is normal, but like, oh man, I was even saying about the one who my girlfriend, when we broke up right before COVID, like I didn't get over her but then when I get over them, like in my head, then I'm kind of over them. Then I look at the videos and I go,
doesn't
weird.
Do it. Yeah.
Where I used to do it a lot. Like I'd be like, oh God, look how, like, oh God, this is great. And I have, and then there's an expiration date on those videos. There's an expiration date where I'm like, this doesn't turn me on anymore. Yeah.
But you still keep them.
Actually, when I know that they're in a committed relationship with somebody else, then isn't that weird? Like then I lose interest. Makes sense. Then I go, well, they're. Is it because I'm thinking maybe there's still a chance when I'm jerking off to their? Because once I know they're with somebody else and I'm not turned on anymore, then I'm like. Well, it
could be because they've moved on, or maybe it's because you feel like, oh, now they're getting it in with somebody else.
From somebody else. So yeah. Like, here's, another. I'm not comparing breaking up to this, but the other thing is like, if a porn star dies, or like whatever drug addict, I can't ever watch it again. Isn't that weird? Like if I know, like there's been several, obviously some porn stars, sometimes some of them have difficult lives and, especially, if they die of old age, that's different, but which, oh my God, I'm at that age now where a lot of the porn stars when I was jerking off to when I was young. Oh but if like a porn star like took her own life or drug overdose or something, I can no longer look at them as a sex object. I couldn't watch it. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I like that about you. I feel like that's a good thing.
Yeah, I couldn't. Like there was, what was her name? Like I'm talking out of school. She was a famous porn star and she died. She killed herself like a couple of years ago. And I went, when I read the news, I went on and looked. I'm like, oh, and I just like never again can never look at her. Like I can never like feel so bad. And like I could never, maybe it's because of that, like I couldn't derive pleasure knowing that this person was so unhappy.
Right. I think that's a big component of it. Yeah. Especially if she took her own life. It's like, oh, she was, yeah.
Or some of them get killed. Like there's been a lot of that too, where they,
I had a podcast. I was on someone's podcast and he was talking a lot about how that's huge in Mexico or South America, actually more so, where there was just all these homicides of women happening. And most of them are like sexually free women or, and it's just like, oh my God, I had no idea this was all happening. I feel like I'm in a bubble sometimes.
I just thought of something and I should connect you with him and get him on the show because I was making that joke about the old porn stars. I was playing golf about a month and a half ago at Rancho Park and we got paired up with this guy and I'm looking at him and I'm like, man, I know this guy.
Yeah, I know you.
But he's an old guy, right? Like older than me. He's, probably in his pushing 70 or in his 70s. And I'm looking, I'm like, man, how do I know this guy? And then it hits me. His name's Paul Thomas. Paul Thomas was, if you ever watched 70s or 80s porn, he's in every one of them.
All of them. He
was like the erudite porn star. Like he was a legit like Juilliard trained actor.
Oh, wow.
Who became a porn guy. But he's like Mount Rushmore of like dude guys from, straight porn. And then we start talking and then he was talking about the entertainment business. And I said, I know who you are, man. And then we started talking and he had these it was incredible to hear these stories that he would tell about, the golden era of porn when when all this stuff was coming on. But I was looking at him and I'm like, it's like the Radiohead song, gravity always wins. You're like, time comes for all of us, man. I'm like, this motherfucker fucked everybody. Look at him, and now I look at him, like, look at him. Now he's like my grandfather. He looked like, I look at him going, yeah. I should connect you with him.
Yeah,
There would be some stories. That guy, Paul Thomas.
That's funny. I'll have to check him out. 70s, 80s. Yeah.
He was the consultant on, speaking of Paul Thomas Anderson with Boogie Nights. So Paul Thomas was the consultant on the film Boogie Nights to tell him how porn was back then and all that stuff. But he was telling me these stories, and it's just interesting you're probably thinking this now as I'm talking to you about it. You're like, it's funny when an old person starts telling you about all their sexual conduct. You're like, yeah, whatever, buddy. Because like he's telling me these stories, and I'm like looking at him going, what a shame.
See, I don't think of that. I was on the phone with my grandma the other day. She just had to be put into a assisted living like home recently. And she was talking about how all, it's mostly women there, but there are some couples and there are some dudes. And she was just saying how the dudes are they're just old and ugly and weird vibes. And I was like, yeah, but grandma, isn't that like, aren't people like hooking up in these places? Like
Isn't that the thing? Like I heard, what's the place in Florida? It's like the biggest retirement community, but apparently they're all freaks.
Well, I just remember hearing a stat once that is like, there is like the highest rate of chlamydia is in like retirement homes. And I don't know if I ever fact checked
because they don't give a shit. They're not wearing a condom. Imagine being like 75 and they're like, put a condom on. Fuck you. You're not getting pregnant. And who cares if we get chlamydia? We're going to be dead in a couple of years.
No, I like thinking about that. I feel like age is like, I don't know. It's just becoming more accepted with like, differing ages of relationships. And I like bringing on different diversity on the podcast. So I think it'd be cool to have more older people.
I'm going to connect you with PT then. He's the man. He'll have a lot more stories, I'm sure.
You got some good stories. Yeah. No, I appreciate you opening up and sharing some of your
I hope I opened up enough. Us. I mean, here's what I will say. I write comedy too. So of course I'm racked with insecurity. Like that comes from a place. It comes from a real place. Like I really am. Like, and when I talk about, if I'm being honest, so much of my sexuality, my relationship to sex was, as I mentioned, I didn't have a good childhood and I didn't get a lot of love in my childhood. And when I was a kid, I was chubby. And then when I turned like 12, 13, I lost all the weight and got, when I was like my freshman year in high school, like around the time I got the blowjob from the two girls.
Two girls.
And so suddenly it was like discovering a room in my house that I never knew existed, right? And so all of a sudden girls were paying attention to me, which was good, but bad in a way too, because that became love for me. Like what I wasn't getting at home was that feeling when a girl would look at me and like me, right? Like the problem with that was that became the drug, not the real feelings or the relationship. The drug became getting somebody getting that
validation.
And this is obviously stuff that came like I learned through therapy as I got older, but it really carried through most of my life, like for decades of my life was like, once I was in the relationship, consciously or subconsciously, I would go, well, like if I was dating you, great. And I would go, once we were in it and you really cared about me, I would think, well, I didn't know, I wasn't subconsciously thinking this, but it's like, there's something wrong with you because you like me. Right. And that's shit that I had to work out.
Yeah. I hope you've worked that out.
I did work it out. And that's why I don't get laid nearly as much because I'm not trying as hard. I'm serious. Like when I was, that was it. Like that was for me, like that really was like a drug, like to go out and pick up women. Keeping them wasn't the drug. Picking them up was the drug. Like
I felt similarly though. I was pretty addicted to that for a long time in my early years. Like it was just a game more than anything. Like I was like, I can get any person I want in this bar.
Yeah.
And I always did.
And I mean,
it was like fun.
I had a talk with a friend of mine recently too. And I said, and this is the kind of pathetic thing you do when you get to my age is you look back and I go, like I was with women that were unbelievable, like just like inside, outside, like the most beautiful women you could imagine. And again, not just physically, I'm talking about thinking back on them, like these were incredible women, and I couldn't see it. And even the physical beauty that would very quickly wear off, and I would go, look at her, like it wouldn't matter. Yeah. Like we get friends would be like, dude, your girlfriend's I don't know. Look at this one over here. Yeah. What are you doing? What are you doing? And I'd be like, I can't. I was at a wedding. I'll leave it at this. I was at a wedding. This was probably, I don't know, 20 years ago, maybe not quite that long ago. And there was a woman that I had met. She was a friend of the bride, and we'd met prior to that in Vegas. And she was amazing, incredible. And we were having an awesome time together in Vegas. And then I blew it because I was gambling, and I didn't want to leave the craps table. And she wanted to go back. And I'm like, okay, I'll meet you back there. I got like all this money in front of me. What are you talking about? I can't leave. I'm killing it. So she left, and that was the end of it. And just blew it. And the next day, she didn't want anything to do with me. She was laughing at me. So, so then we go to the wedding, and she's at the wedding, and we reconnect, and it's kind of on again. She's going to give me another chance. I'm like, this is great. And I'm with one of my best friends at the wedding. But then I look over, and there's this, she had dark hair, and then there's this blonde over here. And I'm like, oh, and then she's like, comes over, she's talking to me, and my friend's going, Double D. And they call me, what are you doing? I go, nothing. He's like, no, stop it. Stay focused on her, right? Like, you're getting a second chance. She's incredible. Like, I'm not doing anything. I'm just, and I couldn't help myself. I couldn't help myself from flirting with the other woman. And the beauty of this story is we were out at this, it was a really, really nice wedding, but you had to take a shuttle. And the night ended with alone, of course. And my friend took a picture of me on the shuttle, drunk with like a bag of Doritos. And he took this picture on purpose, framed it so that I'm in the foreground, and in the background is the blonde making out with this other guy.
I thought you were going to say the girls are making out.
No, that would have been the best. But I'm like, I couldn't help myself. I'm like, why can't I just focus and stay with you? I couldn't help. But I've gotten so much better now.
Okay, good.
Yeah, now I can focus because the universe has made me focus. Now they're like, we're not going to give you nearly as many opportunities as you had in the past. So.
I do feel like a lot of people go through that phase though of life where they're like just looking for the next best thing. They don't want to settle. They're always just like,
is 35 years a phase? Does that count as a phase?
It might be. It's pretty common.
Thank you for that. Yeah, it's just a phase. But Dan, you're in your 50s. Hey, I'm in a phase. I'm going to grow out of it or die. One or the other.
Yeah, maybe awareness too. You just one day you're like, okay, I want more.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
wow.
I'm going to continue to evolve, I think, and then the next time I come on, I'll be comfortable, more comfortable.
Well, you seemed pretty comfy today. I appreciate.
Yeah, no,
I appreciate it.
This is great. This is a lot of fun. I appreciate you having me on. And,
do you want to share anything to my listeners if anyone wants to find like you?
Beyond my saggy balls and my, do I want to share anything? What more could I not, whatever haven't I shared?
Your podcast or anywhere to find
fingers up my ass. I'm ramming dildos up my ass. What do I want to share? I love Stranger Things. No. About myself. My podcast is called What We're Drinking with Dan Dunn. And we just had Dirk Bentley on the show. I got Eric Andre's going to be on in 2 weeks. We got a bunch of fun people coming on there. We're making the movie version of American Wino, my book. But if you want to read the book before the movie comes out, it's available everywhere there's bargain bin book bins. Do those exist anymore? And my Instagram is @theimbiber. There you go.
Thank you.
That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Double D. Cheers.
Cheers.
See you next time. Thanks, sweets. Be sweet to yourself. We'll see you next time.